What's up? You get up close and personal with the man. I'm here to answer your questions. Go ahead, ask me some questions. Nobody? Okay. All right, well, I'll talk. I'll do all the talking there, and you guys do the listening. We'll stick to that format. Now, a lot of people have asked me, why do I go in on Dana White in the UFC so much? And what do I have against the UFC? Well, it's mostly for my experience and what I'm used to and what I'm used to not going through and all of that nonsense. Listen, Dana White and the UFC, they represent the evil corruption of a monopoly. If anything tried to come up against it, they try to smother it, sabotage it, and destroy it and keep everything in a hole, and so they can dictate terms. They were very smart in their marketing and their advertisement as far as trying to promote the fact that they are trying to be an alternative to boxing and how they're swallowing the sport, which is completely a farce. But they managed to manipulate networks like Fox and ESPN into selling their propaganda for them and passing that on as news. That's why you don't see reports when Ronda Rousey lose until like days later. It's like, how could you even call yourself a sports network or a sports news network if the biggest news of that weekend doesn't get reported? You're doing an injustice to the people. And that's what I have a problem with. Not treating people fairly. These people are not being paid fairly for their wages. I've never seen a sport that's basically, swallowing another sport and supposed to be the biggest thing in the world, and like 90 to 80% of the guys are barely making over 40, 50,000 a year. I mean, let's be honest. Most of these guys are not living well. And boxing pays a lot more. Why would your biggest star in your sport threaten to go to the other sport? Not even in his own sport. He didn't say, let me branch out and do UFC or fighting on my own. He just said, look, I'm going to go do boxing. It's pretty interesting, right? Okay. Now, the UFC sells you propaganda. And Dana White was responsible for it. And they're doing what's best for their company. That's fine. My thing is, you're not doing what's right for the people in the company. So that's why I have a problem. I'm the voice for a lot of these fighters that are not being treated well. They're not being promoted well. The staff, the writers, you've seen how they do the guys who basically sold you the sport, who basically followed these guys who reported on them. As you see, if they weren't biased for UFC, then they were cast out, no matter how much of a face of MMA, whatever that stuff is. And I'm sick of that too. That's got to stop. If I got to lead the crusade to just destroy MMA, that's got to stop. And when people are like, what do you mean that's got to stop? You trying to destroy MMA? MMA has to stop. But we will get to that later on. And I'll tell you exactly what that means. But the UFC, they give you this false belief that they give you the fights the people want to see. Did the people ask for Randy Couture versus Fedor Emelianenko? I believe they did. But because the UFC didn't control both sides of the party, they couldn't play well with others. So you missed out on the biggest fight in MMA history. Fedor. it just crushed everybody. They even took a picture together. Those two wanted to fight each other really bad, and Dana White kept it from happening because he couldn't play well with others. He couldn't keep all the money. He couldn't dictate all the terms. So he said, you know what? We're just going to take our piece and go home. That's what he did. Now, some of the best fighters, Johnson, all of these guys are African American. They don't get the same push as, their other counterparts. As one MMA writer put, Dana White's. They only promote white fighters. And I was like, that's not necessarily true. I said, Dana White had a system in which promoting the face of the sport. You all know if you promoted, he put a lot of promotion into John Jones. They did. It just didn't work out because John Jones' problem was outside of the ring. Then you look at like Rampage, Jackson. They put a lot of promotion into Rampage. They wanted Rampage to be that mega star, and he could have been because of his personality. It's like, if you have a personality, I believe they will push you. But it's just that now other fighters are coming on, like Anthony Rumble Johnson, Damian Maia, Tony Ferguson, Khabib. You got all of these fighters that's there that need promoting that you don't. That the best MMA fights you're going to see are on Fox and not on pay-per-view. Now they want to put Woodley back in there. Instead of him fighting Damian Maia, he's fighting this guy that he beat already. Because the guy had a good round and a half. Now he gets a rematch. It's just, I don't understand it. And then they tell you, they give you the fights you want to see. Who wanted to see Ronda Rousey versus Holly Holm? None of you. You didn't ask for that fight. We get the fights we asked for. No, you don't. You didn't ask for that fight. Did you ask for Conor McGregor to fight Eddie Alvarez? Did you ask for Conor McGregor to fight Nate Diaz? Did you ask for Conor McGregor to fight any of those guys? No. You didn't. Why is he not fighting Khabib, Damian Maia, Tony Ferguson? Why is he not fighting them? He fought Aldo, which was his first basically real fight. Matt Holliday was injured. That's why they took the fight. Conor McGregor got injured during that fight. But going into the fight, Holliday was injured. A lot of things you people just don't know about these sports, man. I swear, y'all just watch the results like sheep. But let's move on to my point. Okay? My point is this. MMA, mixed martial arts, it has to be destroyed. And people are going to say, what do you mean? And I'm saying mixed martial arts, what you guys call mixed martial arts, it's not mixed martial arts. It's not. Do you even know what that means? Well, let me give you their definition of mixed martial arts, or the definition you guys go by. It's a mixture of all different type of forms of jiu-jitsu and this and that, and little boxing, little taekwondo. It's mixed martial arts. So that's what it's MMA, right? That's what they sold you on, right? It's not mixed martial arts. Martial arts is martial arts. Period. It's an insult to a martial artist when you take a form and tell about you're doing mixed martial arts. Martial arts is mixed martial arts. So it doesn't, somebody who does Kempo or Aikido, they have some of the same things. They're different systems that are learned from different mixture of martial arts. There's a lot of Wing Chun that's in Aikido. There's a lot of moves in Taekwondo and Sambo is mixed with another martial art. Kempo, all these different variations is all about systems and how your style and what do you use in certain moments of attack. These arts all together make up the different systems. And the reason the name mixed martial arts ever came into play was to symbolize the tournament of different styles of martial arts all in one tournament. That's why it was a mixed martial arts tournament, meaning that Taekwondo, somebody who knows Kempo, somebody who does ninjutsu, somebody who does Greco-Roman, another Sambo fighter, all of these different styles are going to meet in a tournament that is mixed up with all these different martial arts. So that, hence the phrase, mixed martial arts. It's not a style that you train to do. That's why I said it has to go. Because it's not mixed martial arts. What you guys think is mixed martial arts is not. It's just fighting. If somebody throws a punch, does that make them a boxer? Or they're boxing because they're throwing a punch? They're fighting. If somebody throws a kick, does that mean they're a martial artist? No, they just threw a kick. If you haven't been taught in the arts, if you haven't been trained to box, you're not really boxing. You think you're boxing, but you're not. There's an art form to it. There's a procedure on how to punch and how not to punch. There's a procedure on how to kick. There's a procedure in how to do a takedown. There's a procedure in all of these different things that belongs to the system of the art form. But to just throw it all in a gumbo pot and say, oh, it's mixed martial arts. It's retarded and it's insulting. That's why it needs to be destroyed. It's just a way to dumb it down so the idiots that watch it and drink beer could say, who can't say Taekwondo or his style or whatever. And plus, these idiots are not coming from a style. They're not coming from a martial arts class. They don't have a seafood. They don't have anything. All they do is go to the ring, they go into the gym, they throw some elbows, they learn how to take somebody down and pin them on the ground. Yeah, I study mixed martial arts. You're just an idiot. No, there is no such thing. You just studied how to take somebody down from another art form, and it's just such a gumbo pot of a mess of arts that these people just don't get. Either you study martial arts or you don't. Period. Haven't you seen the guys who actually know martial arts are some of the best fighters in this thing? UFC 4, when they brought Tank Abbott into the format, they brought him in because they wanted to show, because everybody was like, man, if I was in there, I'd have bust dude's face wide open, man. This ain't nothing. I'm telling you, this is, man, these martial arts, that stuff wouldn't work on me. So they said, okay, we're going to show what a martial artist can do to a regular person, street fighter. So they brought street fighters in. And what they found out is what a street fighter can do to a martial artist. When Tank Abbott started laying these guys out with one punch. Then they found their new niche crowd, the biker crowd, the guy with the whiskered beard. Their first personality they had in the whole UFC was Tank Abbott. Before him, there was no personality like him on the planet. Now, they saw that, and Dana White, just looking at all this, knew this is the way to go. Had these street fighters in here and just let them learn a couple of kicks and grapples, and there you go. He was a wrestling champion in high school. It's like, do you think they would have beat any guys in UFC 1, 2, and 3? Guys who were real martial artists, they would have killed these guys. That's why when Yoshida came in and was whipping everybody, I was like, he knows martial arts. Of course he's gonna win. These guys don't study, they don't know anything about martial arts. He knows karate. It's supposed to be a martial arts tournament. Not a bunch of guys wrestling and rolling around on the ground. That's why it was so pathetic. These guys ain't trained to take shots. They don't even know. They're not real fighters. They weren't. The majority of them was. These are a bunch of guys who are training to fight. learning how to just basically fight. They don't know a certain style. So that's what I mean when I say MMA needs to be destroyed. People who are going to read the title are going to be upset and they're going to start commenting right away without understanding what I mean. So now you know what I mean when I say it. And I was getting another question too. Somebody was asking me something about, I don't know, but this video is already long enough. So I'm gonna let this go, and I have to answer back to a couple of text messages I seen pop up across my screen that I'm gonna need to address. But you know what? I will give you these nuggets that happened before. I did an interview, I wanna say back in, it was in October. I did an interview for somebody. We went to a boxing fight and covered it. Kenny Sims was fighting that night. Kenny Sims Jr. fought. It was the night the Cubs clinched to go to the World Series. Now, this night I did an interview for one of the local mixed martial arts web things, and they was, Karceno, can you do this interview for me? I'm like, cool, I'll do the interview for you. Did the interview, and once I done the interview, it was basically, they stopped it once and then we did it again. And they wanted to know about Dana White and the UFC. They saw one of my videos where I always clown Dana White, call him a bozo. And they were talking about like drugs and PEDs and sports and the UFC, and I was like, I'm like, do you think the UFC is really gonna, push to get drugs out? I'm like, now you're seeing the UFC trying to do, really get them out now. Now they want to get them, the drugs is out because they're under investigation right now. I mean, like the microscope is under the UFC for, being stringent on their tests of certain products when before they were very lenient. And it's a heavy PED use, and that's when Nate Diaz basically said it, and his phone has been, shut off because of that. He's not getting phone calls for anything based off that fact alone. The fact that he spoke out saying that there's crazy PED use in UFC. I mean, but it's obvious. You can see that it all died down. And I said, why would Dana White fight to clean it up when he don't have a reason to? It's making him money. And I'm like, well, look at Dana White. Dana White's in his 40s, right? It's like Dana White's in his 40s. I'm like, he looked like the Pillsbury Doughboy in his 30s. He waits to 40s to start putting on muscle. Him and Joe Rogan just decided, let's wait till our 40s to start getting trap muscles. So once I did that, they were like, hey, cut it. Like, yeah, don't talk about that, Dana White. And I'm like, look, dude, he's on screen the majority of the time now because he needs to sell the product. He has to be the face. So Dana White being the face, everybody's tired, and they're like, dude, you got all these muscle-bound athletes and they're fighting, and here comes this Pillsbury Doughboy. He's like, well, I need to Hollywood myself up. So listening to that advice, Joe Rogan put him on the program. Like, stick with me. If we can work out together and take these things here, they're going to help do the work in 10 times a second. So Rogan, I believe, even made fun of the fact that what he used to take, and he didn't know that it was, everybody was accidental GNC stuff, right? You just didn't know your arms was getting that size. You didn't know that you were $185 and went to 230 and cut like a rock. Yeah, you just didn't know, These things just happen in your 40s. So with that being said, they cut the interview. And they had me redo it and say it in a different way, but I've never seen it or heard it ever. So I guess they just said, we can't use it. And this is a small Chicago like MMA thing they got probably on YouTube or on their website that they do. And they still scared of Dana White and his power in MMA. I'm not afraid of Dana White. I'm not afraid of the UFC. I've seen bigger fish in the sea do a lot more damage. That I ain't even afraid of them. So if I'm going to be afraid of anybody, it won't be them. Now, they have to address these facts. And y'all hold their feet to the fire. Why are the fighters not being paid what they're supposed to be paid? Give us the fights we want. Did anybody want to see Ronda Rousey fight Holly Holm? Who asked for it? Nobody. But when it happens to be a great fight, we knew what we were doing when we made it. You guys didn't want to fight Amanda Nunes, which was the fight. The fight fans thought like, man, yeah, this is going to be a fight if they fought. I want to see how Ronda would do with a striker. But they wanted her to fight Cyborg. You didn't make that fight happen. Now the fans want to see Khabib versus Conor McGregor. You're not making that fight happen. Damian Maia is supposed to get his shot at Woodley. You're not making that happen. You see what I'm saying? What are you doing with Anthony Rumble Johnson? He's action. He's not something to build your card on. He should be headlining. Promote your talent. Everything I call this guy out on is not me just bashing him just because I don't like Dana White. I'm calling because I'm saying things that make sense. The rest of the people in the MMA world knows that it makes sense. So there you go. You got another extra 6 minutes out of me. I'm out.